Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. My name is Thomas, and what's your name?
I'm Alan.
Alan.
Yeah. We're brothers.
That's right.
Yeah. Same mother and father.
Your room was...
We shared a room.
Shared a room.
We shared a room.
Thought I knew your face.
Yeah, we go way back, mate. Yeah.
We should do a podcast then.
We have.
We do a podcast.
We do a podcast.
What's it called?
The
BroKast.
Yeah, that was planned.
Yeah. Well.
What do we do?
Well, we cover all different things in the world of pop culture. We're talking about comic books, we're talking about professional wrestling, and we're talking about movies. Go back and watch classic retro wrestling events, the likes of WWE, WCW, and if you do like that, you can check us out on Apple iTunes, also on Podbean, Anchor, and on Podknife. Also check us out on Twitter at the BroKast. That's BROKAST. Nearly stuffed up the ending.
Yeah, it's all right. Good on you.
Yeah. Instagram also at the BroKast Podcast.
Remember, we don't spell it with a C. We spell it with a K.
Sorry, mate.
Take it easy.
The podcast you're about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. This will be the episode dropping on March 9th, 2021. And we are currently celebrating Women's Month. And yesterday, that Monday, March 8th, was International Women's Day. And yeah, that's what I want to talk about today, actually. Here's the thing I want to talk about, and we'll touch on some other things a little later on. Just here's the thing. In my life, I have been very fortunate. I have a lot of amazing women that are part of my life in one way or another. Whether it is people I have that are friends that I've known for a long time that have been through amazing things. I know women that have been through some genuine horrible shit. I know genuine hardcore badass women that have kicked cancer's ass, women that don't take shit from anybody, women that create amazing things, women that do amazing things, women that have stood up and fought and argued and been pioneers in different things and made changes and actively tried to make the world a better place. And it doesn't always have to be some big dramatic thing that draws a lot of attention. It doesn't always have to be some national event. The biggest changes in the world are made in the littlest ways. Anybody that tries to undervalue the simple fact of being a mother and creating a life and raising a child and doing a decent job of it, that's the rub of it. I know way too many people that have sloughed off and been half-ass parents. And if you're a parent and if you're a mother and you're an active, actual good mother, as in you're involved in your kid's life, you raise them, you teach them morals, you don't hand them off to somebody else to take care of because you still want to go out and live your best life taking care of yourself and putting number one first. As soon as there's another life in the picture, that stops being an option if you're any kind of a decent human being. It's not a matter of, and I'm saying this goes to the dads too, or the sperm donors, depending on the scenario. If you are involved in bringing a child into the world, what you want and your desires and your happiness are no longer the friggin' priority. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't be happy and you shouldn't have quality in your life, but you cannot put yourself ahead of your children if you want to be any kind of a decent human being. And it really just chafes my ass that we live in a world where that has to be reiterated to people. If you go out and you get knocked up, you no longer are entitled to go out and get your party on. You're not entitled to go out and get fucked up with your friends. You made a choice. You made a decision. Those decisions have consequences. And so here's a big shout out to all the real adult grown-ass women who take care of their business. And for the ones that got a bad break and caught a shitty partner on the situation, I'm sorry for you. Extra love to you if you're doing it by yourself and you're still killing it. Good for you. Now, that being said, I want to address the actual fact that it is International Women's Day, and the fact that we live in a world where this needs to be a day like that is hyped up and made into a big deal. Like, take this day to acknowledge all these women who have achieved this and that and done this and that. I have an issue with it, but it's not because I don't think women should be acknowledged. It's more because I think we shouldn't need a particular day set aside to acknowledge women's accomplishments, to acknowledge that women are contributors to this big ball we're all going around the solar system on. We are all people, we all contribute, we all do things, and I think it's just absolute horseshit. The implication is that we need to acknowledge women are doing something special on this International Women's Day, a day to acknowledge women. The implication is they're not getting enough acknowledgement in the day-to-day existence to offset the need for a specific day to acknowledge these things. It's really just, it's kind of stupid. And not that I think acknowledging women's achievements is stupid, but the fact that they're not getting acknowledged the rest of the time is, I don't think it's nearly as common as it used to be. Like, I understand where it came from. There's still a lot of inequality in the world. There's still a lot of horseshit going on in the world. There's still a lot of women that aren't taken seriously based on merit, which is fucking pathetic. All these good old boys clubs are just, they're sickening and they're stupid. I really don't understand how you can automatically think you're better because you have testicles and because you can write your name in the snow. Whoop-de-fuck. And that being said, conversely, I don't want to make it, I'm not sitting here trying to kowtow to the simple fact that women have all these accomplishments too. The simple fact of the matter is I acknowledge them, and I acknowledge them when they happen. I don't need a special holiday to feel that a woman is doing something that's badass, and I don't feel the need to wait to acknowledge if I don't see I don't understand the pressure to have some sort of mentality where you're not going to acknowledge somebody doing something cool. Their plumbing should have no bearing on the impressiveness of their deeds. I'm really just frustrated that we're still in, it's 2021 for fuck's sakes. Why are we still having to have these conversations? Why do we still have to explain to people that your gender, like I said, your reproductive organs do not determine your worth or your value or your skills or your capabilities? And, well, I acknowledge that women deserve acknowledgement for all these things they're doing. The issue I have with International Women's Day is the simple fact that it needs to exist in the first place. And I understand it, and I'm not even really complaining that it happens. I think it's a good thing that women are being acknowledged and I'm not really mad about the holiday. I'm mad that we live in a world where it's necessary, where these things need to be highlighted as, look at all the shit you morons are not catching on the day-to-day. The kind of issue where it needs to be pointed out. Trying to fix the inequities and the bullshit that has been prevalent for so long that it becomes a matter partly of overcompensation, which is not the case here. I'm just saying, I'm speaking in broader strokes now. But the fact that we have to focus on acknowledging all the bullshit and all the wrongs of the past, and people need their feelings fixed before we can move forward. And the fact that we're still having to fix all this bullshit, and it's not completely fixed. You know, a parade doesn't necessarily fix the other 364 days of bullshit. So, realistically, my little thing that is going to be my sort of call to action, or whatever you want to call it, is change your mindset, change your mentality. Don't just acknowledge, hey, it's Women's Day, happy Women's Day, here, great job for having ovaries. Instead, when you see somebody who does something that's worthy of acknowledgement, fucking acknowledge it. Don't be weird, don't be awkward, don't be all standoffish and creepy. Don't just say, hey, good job, good for you. You don't have to, qualify it. Hey, you did a great job for a girl. No, motherfucker, you did a good job. There's no reason to add the for a girl. There's no need for qualifications. You either can do something or you can't. It doesn't really matter how your insides are arranged. What matters is whether or not you possess the skills necessary to perform said deed. And we should not hesitate to acknowledge it regardless of who's doing it. It's so basic, it's so entry level, and it's such utter crap that apparently we simply can't be mature enough to acknowledge that without having to highlight the fact that we're acknowledging it. And just as a personal note to every single person who, if you are making some big show of acknowledging female accomplishments because it's International Women's Day, and the rest of the time you're just kind of a general douche, spare me the virtue signaling. Just fucking grow up. Don't wait to, oh, hey, I'm a supporter, I'm an ally, I encourage women. It's International Women's Day. You go, girl. Everyone, look at how much attention I'm bringing to women. Look, just be fucking cool. That's really, I've said it so many times about so many things, and we would all be so much better off if people would just be fucking cool. Don't focus on the bullshit, and don't get hung up on these things about women. Women are amazing and strong and capable and deserve acknowledgement. They deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. And you need to get over your dicks and get over yourselves and acknowledge that. Do it every day. Don't wait for some bullshit made-up holiday that is basically offsetting all the generations of patriarchal bullshit. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not the social justice warrior. I'm not the one who's out here, fight the patriarchy, da-da-da-da-da. No, fight anything that puts one group above another. Equality means exactly that. Equal. Everybody's the same. Everybody has either the same amount of worth or the complete fucking lack of worth, depending on where you're standing. And I am a big fan, as everyone knows, of merit. You either have it or you don't. I don't care which way you're swinging. I don't care what you identify as. I don't care what gender you were assigned, what gender you were born, what gender you identify as. You're either a worthy person or you're a piece of shit. And realistically, it's time for the grown-ups to start realizing what camp they need to be in. It's time for all the entitled horse shit to go away. It's time for the bullshit posturing to go away and to just treat women as what they are. People. Nothing more, nothing less. They can be strong, they can be amazing, they can be fantastic, or they can be miserable pieces of shit just like men can. And ultimately, and yes, I'm only using two genders in the terms of this because I'm purely speaking biologically. After the break, I'm going to elaborate a little further on some things that I'm not trying to detract from International Women's Day, but I don't want to harp on it either because realistically, I'm not a woman. I am a man. I am a cis hetero white male, which makes me the enemy to some people. But here's the thing. I acknowledge the fact that I really don't have a basis for comparison. I can be sympathetic. I can be understanding. I am a husband. I am a brother to women. I am son to a mother. And I am surrounded by women in my life that have, if nothing else, taught me that they're no better or no worse than I am based on the things I keep talking about. They are good people. They are strong people in their own ways. They are vulnerable in their own ways, just like anyone else. It's really, we need to be better. And by being better, we'll hopefully get to where we need to be. And with that being said, that is my acknowledgement. Happy International Women's Day to all the wonderful, amazing women in the world and to all the empty-headed, parasitic little ass clowns. Grow the fuck up. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick little break, and I'm going to come back and kind of elaborate on some issues I've been thinking about in terms of International Women's Day and where part of the problem comes in with from the other side.
Join me, 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty, on my podcast, My Life of Crime, as I take on true crime investigations like no other. This season, I'm looking into the labyrinth of crime and secrets within families, I'm cutting straight to the evidence and talking to the people directly involved, including investigators and the families of victims. Listen to My Life of Crime with Erin Moriarty wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, so thanks for listening to that, everybody. Like I said, it's the old standard anchor roll. It's got to go in there somewhere. And now, here's the thing I've been thinking about a lot, and the fact that it is Women's Month and International Women's Day and all these things that we are bringing forth, trying to acknowledge the inequities and the bullshit that has been perpetrated for all this time. And it kind of got me thinking, though, because one of the biggest issues about this, and realistically, one of the reasons we even need to have an International Women's Day, is really a piss-poor interpretation of what masculinity is. And there are a lot of names out there for it, and there are a lot of different SJWs out there that are stumping and trying to argue that it's the patriarchy and it's the domination of the women, and it's basically, it just boils down to the same thing that I'm constantly bringing up. And I feel like I got to find some new material, because these things, they, even in my head, they start to sound like I'm going around in circles. It involves being shitty. We need to teach our young men, our children, we need to teach them better that masculinity is not to be equated with being a shithead. It's not to be equated with dominance. You want to be a real man, handle your shit, take care of your business. Be caring, be giving, be nurturing. And, I know it's hard. I mean, a lot of us, we're still coming off the fact that we were raised that men don't show emotions, men don't get upset, men don't do this, men don't do that. And that mentality is part of what needs to be changed. It's not just enough to acknowledge the accomplishments and the things women have done to be acknowledged, the things that are worthy of recognition. We have to work on changing the culture and the environment that got things to the point where this was a necessary thing to put in place, where we needed to compensate and fix what was wrong. The fact that we needed to make a thing that says, look here, you're just as good as these fuckers over here. And we need to really sit back and just have a good think and take a look. And without getting up on any real soapbox about this, it's really more something I just feel like I want to point out. This is something we do on a micro level. This is not bring huge sweeping legislation and we're going to use the system to force this shit into being. We need to do it on an individual level. It needs to be done on an interpersonal level. This is not something that is going to change through massive horseshit. These things, it's one of those situations where it is something that's just and right, but you have to show its righteousness and its justice. We have to teach these kids better than we were taught. You can't force decency, as much as it would be fantastic if we could get everybody to just be fucking decent. Trying to browbeat it into people isn't the way. You have to show and nurture and help it grow and bring it along organically so it becomes the new norm. You can't just say, all of a sudden, we decided this is what's right and you were all wrong, and that's just the way it is. You have to show people how to be better. You have to lead by example. We have to make it normalized for masculinity to be equated with caring and goodness and decency. Because regardless of the amount of protesting and screaming and yelling and all this other horse shit, as long as it's still a norm that we've got all these mouth-breathing knuckle-draggers that are going to walk around saying, oh, women think they men, her, and all this other horse shit. We need to get that in check. We need to encourage and redefine masculinity so things like this wouldn't be necessary. So we can all be on equal footing. So we can all be decent. So we can, hey, look, Jane's over here and she's doing the same amazing job that Bob's doing. They're both being acknowledged because they're both doing a good job at the same task, and they're equal because they're doing the same task, and they're both being contributing useful members. And not have everything be a competition, not have everything be about who does it better or who's doing it because, oh, this is what men do and this is what women are supposed to do. It's just, I get so hung up on these things and it pisses me off, and I have to try and sit back and organize and maintain hope for the future and realize getting these norms changed and getting what's being defined as gender-oriented roles. We need to get all that shit over with. If your kids want to do something and they're not, the gender normative definition of how things are doing, don't be a douche. Don't be difficult about it. Your kid wants to do something that's not gender normative, good. Encourage that shit. Tell your kid, you know what, you're right. That makes you happy. You should be able to do that. I want you to be happy because I love you. Be manly enough and secure enough in who you are. And yes, at this point, I'm talking to the men. Be enough of a man to encourage your kids to do what makes them happy, to teach them how to have joy in their life so they're not a miserable fucker like you are when they grow up. And to the women out there, that if you're a miserable fucker, try and do better for your kids too. Encourage them. Men, women, children, we're all people. Men and women are responsible for how the children come up. We're fucking miserable. How about we don't dump our shit onto our kids? The things that we're all hung up on that are such big issues, how about we let the next generation just be happy? Is it really too much fucking to ask that we make that the new normal? Make acceptance what is the new standard. Make it so the people who aren't accepting, and again, I'm not saying legislate it or force it, because I am unilaterally opposed to that much government involvement in anyone's lives. It never ends well. The rulers never have the ruled's best interest at heart. It's never a good thing. The system was never supposed to have that much power, and the fact that we've given it to them. And I don't want to get off on a political rant. This societal change cannot be legislated. Societal change has to be from people wanting to change. Legislation is domination. Legislation is not change. Legislation is imposing your will on other people. We have to show the merit of the life we want for our kids, for the future, for the world. So that's kind of my conclusion to this little tirade that I'm going off on. This is a short episode, I know. Realistically, I really just, that's what I had to say. In a little side note, though, a couple things. I wanted to give a quick acknowledgement. If you have not listened to any of the rants I've got, if you're still listening at this point, first off, thank you for sticking it out to the end. Secondly, I want to take the time out to really quickly say I recently did an episode with the ladies of You Should Have Ghosted. I've brought their show up before. It's another podcast. They are fantastic people. It was a blast. I don't know how long the episode's going to be, but I know how long we were talking back and forth and cracking jokes and laughing and having a good time. And it would be fantastic if you had a chance. Go check it out. It was, and if you're not already following the ladies and listening to the show, you really should. And once again, I'm just going to throw out a little plug, self-endorsement here. Check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. Links to everything. Obviously, you already know how to find the show if you're listening to this, but links to anything I have or will be talking about in the show are on there. Small businesses, musicians, other podcasts. There's a whole page full of podcast links, and it's shows I listen to. It's not just like a random list of shit I've pulled together. It's all the programs I listen to, people I interact with, people I talk to on a regular basis. And that's like, for what it's worth, if you like listening to me and you have any kind of respect for my opinions and my thoughts, these are shows you may want to check out because I enjoy them and hopefully you will too. And that being said, check out if you want to support the show in any kind of way. There's a Buy Me a Coffee link. There is a link to merchandise, which is getting better. I've got a pretty cool new design. I think it's just in the final stages. I got to get a couple other people's opinions, because just because I like it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be cool. But that will be going up shortly. There's some other stuff. It's nothing super fancy, because this is a hobby. I can't afford to hire a graphic designer, so it's all stuff I've kind of come up with. And if you got any ideas, you got any feedback, if you want to make something that you think is cool that somehow ties into the show, and you want to send it to me, because be aware, if you do send it to me, it's going to be one of those, I don't know, legal standing, and it becomes property of the show. I'm saying that to cover my own ass, because I really am not in a position where I can afford to get sued. But if you want to, fan art or whatever, or it's all, I think that stuff's really cool. I've seen some really neat things out there. There's some really talented people out there that do these things, and I'm not one of them. So, go check out the website, click the links, follow the other shows, and thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. If you liked what you heard, leave a review, give us a follow, give me some feedback. And if you didn't like what you heard, leave a review, give me a follow, give me some feedback. I'll try and fix it. Check us out on all the social media platforms at I Had to Say It Podcast is the trigger for all that stuff, for the search term. And if you want, check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. There's links to people that have been involved with the program, things I've talked about. There are some links available for some merch that we're working on, and there are ways to contact us there as well. And thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.